Hello and welcome back to the SRC Ultimo podcast with
me, Aisha. Hello.
And Coco. Hi.
Nice to meet you guys.
How are you going?
I'm alright. It's freaking freezing.
It is. The weather, it's finally winter, it's June. Happy Pride Month, everyone.
Hey.
I hope you guys are staying safe and staying warm because
so cold. And it's drizzly. Well. Yeah, and it's drizzly, so it's like raining all the time. So like, make sure to pack your umbrellas, bring some gloves.
Yes.
Cozy up.
I forgot my umbrella the other day and I got caught in the rain while I was on a meeting.
Oh no.
Yeah, so not fun. We have a photography competition going on. Submissions close the 1st of August, I believe. So get your cameras ready. Check out the hub page on the Student Hub for all the information there. Yeah,
we'd love to see your stuff. We can't wait to see the
I'm not really too sure who's judging currently, but I think we'll get more information throughout the trimester. But yeah, if you're a photography buff or whatever, photography buff, and you're interested in that, feel free to check out the website, and yeah, we'll give you updates as we find them out ourselves.
Absolutely.
Also, newsletters get sent out, I believe, every Tuesday. I am part of the newsletter team, so we also have a section at the bottom, the SRC section, which I myself write, and also another person on our team, Jeremy and Chloe as well, who is our president. So please read them. There's information on there for anything that's happening.
Yeah. Don't forget to check your emails.
Yes. I currently have 169 emails unread, and I need to get on top of that.
I've just basically said no notifications at this point.
Yeah. It's, as much as life is stressful, please try to stay on top of your emails and assessments and everything. Yeah, also, do take breaks for yourself as well, because as much as, uni is important and whatever, your health is just as important. So stay safe. If you haven't eaten yet, go have a meal, go drink some water, stay hydrated.
Yes. Grab a little snack to listen to us with this podcast.
Yes. Grab some tea. We have our water here.
It's so cold, so just make yourself a hot chocolate, cozy up, put some pillows around you. It'll be fun. Yeah. Friendly fun times.
We also have a pod now, which was the gaming pod on level 1.
Yeah, speaking about cozy.
Yes.
It's a really nice place.
We also have a suggestion box that I've created. So if you want to look at that, feel free to. If you have any suggestions, please leave them in there and we will get back to you on whatever it is you want us to do.
Yeah. We're always happy to listen, and we're learning as much as everyone else here is, so.
Yeah, the SRC is basically, we want to give back to the students and, make campus as much as a lovely environment as we want to. So please let us know if you have any suggestions, because it helps us and it will help you in the future as well.
Assignments are coming up. Don't forget about that, guys. Do your assignments.
Yes.
Just do your best. That's all anyone can ask of you for.
Yes, do your best. And, keep in mind that your lecturers are there to help you. And,
don't be afraid to ask for help, even with other classmates, as long as, you're not bugging them, But
remember that we're all in the same boat here, and that, there are people there to help you. And if you are struggling, feel free to ask your lecturers.
Yeah, there's even counselors in the...
Maria, our counselor as well, she's really good. I've seen her on multiple occasions because I am broken. But she's really good. I really like her outlook on certain things, and it does help a lot. Even if you think that, is my talking about my feelings going to help anything? It does help. I think, practice makes progression. We all start somewhere. And
even I used to record my voice. I had a cheap microphone and I just put voice memos of me just yelling out my feelings, and I'd re-listen to it and be like, oh, and it changed my perspective a little bit, and I was like, oh, okay, I understand this better now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll work for everybody, but that works.
I think even writing in a journal, I've kept a diary since maybe year 7. I'm, I think 3rd year of uni or whatever. I'm 21 now. So you can clearly see the progression of the stuff that I went through. And it is nice, depending on what I've written, obviously, to look back and kind of see how far you've come.
Yeah, that's why I keep old art pieces, because I can look back and be like, oh, wow.
Yeah. Also,
I drew like that.
If you are an artist, please don't throw your stuff away. Keep every bit of art that you have, because it shows the progression that you've had over the years. Don't be dumb like I did, because I threw away all the ugly artworks that I hated, and it was a horrible thing.
Plus, going back to doing assignments, it's really awesome to have all that old stuff and being able to pull them out and be like, oh, that's a good idea. Maybe I have the skill now to actually properly put that into place and actually do it for an assignment. So.
I think it's good to have variation on your portfolio as well.
Always.
Yeah. Speaking of getting help on campus, we have a Discord. We have multiple Discords, actually. We have the Torrens Gaming Society Discord. Well, that's also something we're working on.
And like any other subjects, they'll give you like Discord things. It'll be specific for whatever you want to do.
Yep, there's I think it's mostly for the gaming classes, digital media, and there is a student one, which I am a moderator in, as well as Ahmed, who is not here with us. Hello, stay safe. Yes.
The weather got to him, unfortunately.
Yes. Please stay warm. Please.
It sounds like he died.
He's well and alive. I'm going to message him after this, be like, hi, you okay?
But yeah, the Discords are there for you to join and just hop on in. Meet some people, talk to people, share your ideas. There's lecturers on there as well to like if you need to ask them questions, be like, hey, I need help.
Success coaches. I'm not sure if our counselor is on there, but I feel like she might come up in whatever. So we have the Tugs, the Torrens Gaming Society Discord. There's a Discord for the gaming classes, digital media as well, and there's also a student one done for graphic design and comms design, which is combined, which I do moderate in as well. I think it's a really good way to just connect with, you know, people from your class and whatever. I think it's just easier to just message me like, hey, does anyone know how to do this for this assessment? Links will be in our description. Or
yeah. So if you're not in any of those stuff, come on in.
Yep.
Just press the link. It's so easy. Just go down there. Just scroll. Just press it. It's fine.
Have you pressed it?
Have you pressed it yet?
So we are currently in the process of establishing a film society. It's still very early days, but if you could let us know either on our socials or in the suggestion box or wherever, if that would be something that you're interested in, just because we do need numbers to kind of make all these things happen. And if you guys are interested and want that to happen, then by all means let us know. We'll keep you updated as things go on, but yeah, stay excited and
Stay frosty.
Stay frosty. In relation to film, we spoke to lecturer Andy Marsh.
Andy is a film and video lecturer. You might have had him if you've done any film or video subjects.
We interviewed him online and he talked to us about his thoughts on the film industry and his career. So roll the clip.
Every beginning of every recording is just this weird 10 minutes of us being like, okay, what do we do? But then, you know, you get into it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Let's just start it with that.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the SRC podcast. We're interviewing Andy Marsh. Would you like to introduce yourself, Andy?
Mr. Andy.
Mr. Andy.
It's weird hearing my name in that context. Yeah, look, I guess a lot of people in the college will know me. I've been there since around 2009.
Wow.
And yeah, was a manager for a little while, and now I'm returned back to in the classroom. So I'm a lecturer. So I'm a learning facilitator, not a senior learning facilitator, just a learning facilitator in mostly digital media, but I'll cross over into different areas. So for example, communication design. I'll do some of the core subjects sometimes. It just depends on what's required. I'm quite flexible. I've got a rather broad knowledge kind of base, so I'm not really stuck to one particular area.
Sweet.
That's really awesome. That's a lot of good things to put on a resume, I must say.
And I'm from Dublin.
Yeah.
I'm not from Australia.
Oh, nice.
I can hear an accent.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Best city in the world, folks.
Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah.
2 places. I need to stop making that noise. Number 1. Number 2.
So yeah, you're currently a learning facilitator. But what were your jobs in the past? How did you kind of get to Torrens University or Bilibili or whatever this space is called?
Well, I kind of transplanted my life here to Australia, really. It's weird because I worked in a college in Ireland back in Dublin for about 10 years before I came here. And a very similar role. And I didn't get into teaching immediately when I came to Sydney because I took a role at, it was then Think Education. So I took a role where I was getting people into work, so work placements.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I took that role because I thought, first of all, I wanted a bit of a break from being in the classroom. But secondly, I found this, it was interesting because I found this very weird place called Billy Blue that was on seek.com. I was like, what is that? I'll give that a go, see how that works out. And the job was for getting students into workplaces. So they were all vocational students, so they were getting into workplace. So it was in printing. And because I have a printing background, a design background where I worked with print, I basically used to get the students into work. And it was an interesting scenario because I remember my colleague Deborah, you probably know Deborah Hunter said to me, she had a person working in that role already, and they had like 60 students that needed to do work experience. And
wow,
when I went into the interview, she said, okay, we've got quite a lot of students who need to do work experience. And then when I got the job, I said, yeah, I got the job. And says, right, what we have to do is you've got to get these all into work. But I've looked on the contact list for all of the printers in Sydney, and I think there's only like 200 printers. And I'm like, you know, because printing is a unionized thing as well. There's unions, so they do this thing where they have a list of unionized houses or whatever. Anyway, so I just completely went beyond that. Like within say 6 months, I had found like 500 printers in every at the back of shops and wherever, you know, and I got all the students into work. It was really challenging. But what I liked about it is that it gave me some freedom, because all I really had to do, I worked it out. It was cold calling. So cold calling is very difficult to do, you know. So I worked it out that I got out of every 7 calls, I'd get 1 student placed. And as soon as I got a person who's willing to see me in person, what I'd do is I'd get on the train, because I used to do exactly what the journey would be for the student. So I would just have a weekly train ticket and I would go to that printer, because if I couldn't get there, the student couldn't get there, do you know?
Yeah.
So my logic was, I'll travel around. So it meant me sitting on a train, going out to places like Penrith and Campbelltown and up the north, Hornsby and all these places. So I just sit on the train reading a book, right? So I just went through all these science fiction novels, sitting on the train every day, going out to see these printers. But I got all the students to work, so it worked for me. I got to know Sydney. I know all the different suburbs in Sydney, because it was like an accelerated salesperson, if you want to call it that.
Yeah,
and then,
that's amazing.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun, and that's how I started at Billy Blue. Then I just went back into the classroom. They were like, "Oh yeah, you teach as well." I said, "Yeah, I was teaching for 10 years."
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
It's like, oh, you noticed.
Yeah.
That's really
I'm
cool.
ready now.
That's amazing. That's really awesome.
It was fun.
So what are you currently teaching at the university?
So at the moment, it changes by trimester, but at the moment, my classes are motion design. So which is basically, it's a level 100 subject, which is essentially the basics of filmmaking and time-based.
Yeah, I'm doing that class
I did that in 2019.
So we do a bit of filmmaking, but we also do some After Effects of that. And then there's 2 subjects that I'm teaching right now that I ended up writing. I wrote them, one last term and one the term before. One is called A Psychology of Moving Image, and one is called Persuasive Media Production. The Psychology of Moving Image is a 100 subject, and that's basically an experiment. So what we do is we experiment we use After Effects, and we create these animations that are very lo-fi animations, and we get people to look at them and to try and figure out what it is that they're being shown. It's like a psychological experiment on a viewer, on the audience. And it was through conversations with Liam. Liam Key is the manager there for digital media, and a few of our colleagues, that we recognized that psychology was something that was missing, do you know?
Yeah.
And
yes,
it was missing in our discussions around design, and something we wanted to formalize it a bit. So that subject came to be. And then the other subject is persuasive media production, which is all about, like, we used to have a subject called story and cinematography, which was all about making films. But the problem with making films is that, number one, you need a lot of time, you need a big crew. We have the equipment, we've got all the kit there. All of the equipment is in the college to do it. The problem is time, and the problem is crew, and the problem is skills. And so you only got this 12-week window. So we kind of recognize that we're never really going to be able to compete on a level with, say, you'll make short films, but we'll never be able to compete on that cinematic level. But what we will be able to compete in is we will be able to compete in the YouTube space. So making videos for YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and then bringing in clients and then working with clients. So it's all about persuasive media being, how do you make a piece of media that actually gets people to do things. And it's not only buying stuff, like for example, the consumerist kind of approach. It's also like, how do you get people to change their beliefs or to change their attitudes, or to, you know, there's ethical aspects to
like
it.
at least to get people like thinking.
Yeah.
Like,
Inspire people. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that. So that's what we can do. So it was like, it was us looking inwards at the course and say, well, what are we good at, and what can we really do, and where can we make an impact? And we kind of said that because we have distribution online now, we can distribute on TikTok, Facebook, whatever. We just went with that approach rather than let's make a short film and put it in a film festival approach, because the reality is, well, number one is it's a limited amount of film festivals. And, number two is that's not the reality of filmmaking today. It's changed, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, completely. And what was like in like 5 years time or something? How long has YouTube? I don't know, but it's, technology is just constantly growing.
YouTube 2000, around 2007, I think it is.
Yeah.
So around the same time as Facebook, 2006, 2007.
Yeah. And you can kind of see the progression of like what YouTube was, like cat videos, and now how it's become a source of income for a lot of people.
Well, TikTok's 2016. So TikTok's 2016, and already, it's influencing fashion.
Yeah.
And that's like 5
hugely.
years.
Yeah.
So there's an example of a platform that just arises 5 years later. It's influencing how people buy clothes and wear clothes.
Yeah.
It's accelerating, It's very interesting.
Yeah, social media in general is just quite fascinating. It's like somebody, like a lot of people now are growing up with this, and it's like they don't see how different it was, being like, you had like a newspaper, you had the radio, and you had a TV maybe, and that was all you had for influence apart from the people around you. Now everything's at a push of a button. So
I think people also forget how influential these like platforms are as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like it's good and bad. It's got two sides to that coin. So I was on Facebook. I'm no longer on Facebook. I was on Twitter, no longer on Twitter. Because I recognize that, like, some people shouldn't, we have to be real careful with these systems, because these systems are not designed just for our convenience. These systems are designed because if it's free, we're the product, right? So if it's free, so they're designed to engage you. And what I found with Facebook is that because I'm a little bit OCD, right? I like to complete things, patterns. I like to, Tetris is my favorite computer game. Like I literally just play Tetris for hours.
Yeah.
Don't give me Tetris. It's like it's the worst thing ever, right? And that's the same with like the infinite scroll. So if you like to complete things, because if you think about Facebook as being a list, right? So Facebook is a list. So I get all these notifications in Facebook on this person's doing this person doing this person doing this. The problem with the list is it never ends.
It never,
So how can you finish it, right?
You can't.
It's hard.
It's just,
And it's getting to the point where I am addicted to my phone, because you kind of look at one thing like, oh, my friend posted this, my friend posted that. And then I just end up scrolling for like an hour or 2 hours, and I've wasted half my day.
Just the other day, I was just looking at Instagram posts, and I was like, oh, it's 9 o'clock. I'll go to bed at 10. I'll just scroll through Instagram. I went to bed at 12. I wasted 3 hours on Instagram for no reason.
Yeah, I used to listen to the news. There was a radio station in Ireland called News Talk. It started up in around 2004, 2005, right? I like to listen to talk shows. I love listening to podcasts, people talking.
Yeah.
And it was a late night news program. And I used to listen to that going to bed, and I never got any sleep. And I was starting going, why am I not sleeping? Why am I not sleeping? And it's like, oh, because I'm listening to the news, and what's happening is politicians are on there talking about why are they not doing this? And then next of all, you get really agitated and you can't sleep.
Yeah.
So it's like we're not educated towards this. We're assumed, like we're given a phone, we get a phone and we assume that it's like a norm, but it's not a norm. Like this is we have to really figure out how we interact with these systems. And what I found is that while Facebook allowed me to connect with a lot of people in the projects that I would do, it also stopped me from doing those projects because it stopped the creative process.
Yeah, definitely. I can agree with that. Yeah. Well, I would often go onto Instagram and stuff like that to find inspiration. But then I would get so much inspiration that I wouldn't end up doing anything because I would be so overwhelmed.
There's a reason why we have genres and limits on things. You know, a genre is you stay within the bounds of that world when you're making a piece of media. You start straying outside of it. You know, you're into it has to be humans like constraint.
You're trying to make a romance novel and all of a sudden it's sci-fi and it's like it just goes all over the place.
Yeah.
That's just life.
But if you think of one way to think of it is imagine if you wake up in the morning and you have 100 energy points. It's a computer game, right? So you have 100, what would you say? 100. So you start off in the morning and you've got like, you're full of attention points, let's just say, right? Yeah. And then you have to decide where to spend them. Yeah. And as you're going through the day, if they're all getting eaten up with stuff that's being you're consuming, then none of that effort or energy can go into creating. So you have to find what, and the fulfillment comes from creation, right? So what's my creative stroke? What's my balance between creativity and consumption? So what's my consumption creative balance? And if you start off every morning you wake up, you've got 100 points. It's up to you to choose how you use them. And as it goes down, you go, oh, I use that on Facebook. Oh, I use that on Twitter, TikTok. We go again tomorrow. So if you find that you're doing that and it keeps going down all the time, sometimes better to cut the cord and say, nah. Yeah. That's what I had to do.
I think that's a really good analogy of how to kind of dictate where your time goes, because you know time is not forever, and we have a very short time on earth. And you know, I think a lot of our time we do waste doing miscellaneous bullshit. Like, I apologize for my language, but like we do so much crap that is not necessary.
Yeah, I have a similar analogy, but it's with spoons. Every day you'll start off with, some people have lots of spoons, people have a little amount of spoons, and they have to use it every day, a spoon. Like I use a spoon to do my bed. I use a spoon to do the dishes. All right, now I need at least 3 spoons to do this assignment. And it's like,
same kind of
I don't know why, but spoons makes sense to me. It was the spoons.
Doesn't matter. Look, once the analogy works, once it works, but that's a very true thing. And you're at the point, if you have realized that, you're at a point where you go, you know, this is something that you should be happy that you've recognized that, because most people don't know about the spoons. A lot of people find it very difficult to think about that. You know, it's not something that comes on their radar until later on. So it's kind of a level of maturity that you've reached at this point. You go, wow. Because when I was like 18, 19, you know, you should never have given me TikTok or anything like that when I was that age.
Oh, goodness.
I couldn't. I'm 45 now, like, so I couldn't have had it, you know. But if you gave it to me now, and I was 18, I don't know what I'd be up to.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's mindfulness of like what you're doing, and But sometimes I'm like, you know what? I know I'm supposed to be doing something else, but I'm just going to use all my spoons on TikTok. Like, but now I'm making the conscious decision of doing it now. I'm like, yeah, I understand, but also I just really want to do it.
Done. Yeah.
But sometimes it's okay, right? Sometimes
if you can afford it.
But look, one of the things I like, one of the pieces of advice I've heard is, it's not about an addiction, like if it's whether it's a substance, whether it's a system, whether it's a person, whatever it is, it's about your relationship with the thing. So if you have a relationship with Facebook and you are happy with that relationship and it's a fulfilling relationship, then there's nothing wrong with that, you know?
Yeah.
There's no harm in it. But if you start to recognize that you're becoming obsessed with it, or it's taking up all your spoons, then you might want to question what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know,
it's funny.
I'm currently reading a book. I don't know if you heard The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Spoon. I should just say spoon. Fuck. I apologize if you can bleep that in post. And it talks about, you know, what to prioritize, like what fucks you have to give for specific things, because you only have a certain amount of time on this earth as well. And if you're throwing spoons at everything, you're not gonna have any for things that actually matter. So like it's, you know, you need to prioritize, you know, where your spoons are going and like what is important in your life. Because if you're getting worked up about the smallest things, you're going to be worked up about everything, because, you know, some things don't really matter and some things, you know, you should take time to kind of focus on. But Yeah,
you need a
I highly
really
recommend
good
that book.
list.
Yeah.
A dot point list. just start. I actually, honestly, in this time of technology, the amount of times you just forget to write something down, or just use your hands and like just do some origami.
Yeah, I think I prefer writing things down just because I'm a very visual learner, and I think
it is
physically writing stuff and seeing it like come out of my brain and like be written with my hands.
Yeah, it's a different process in your brain of actually translating those thoughts into your hand and then writing that down. It's a very good way to remember thing, number one, and it's just like as you're writing it down, you realize, oh, actually that's actually not that important, and you can go lower on the list. It's like it's funny. It's weird.
It is.
Life's strange.
Life is
You give
strange.
us the gift of technology and we're like, but I don't want to use it right now.
Yeah. I think getting back to your kind of work process, Andy, what kind of videos do you make, and like what's your favorite part of what kind of the process behind the things that you do?
Well, it kind of, most of what I do is documentary based. So I like the way it's explained. Like, I think it's Bill Nichols explains that Bill Nichols is an influential documentary researcher, if you want to call it that. And he's written a number of books on it. And he talks about this idea of all film, regardless of whether it's a fiction film or whether it's documentary, is in some way a fiction. All film is fiction, even documentary. Because as a documentary, the only difference between a documentary film and a fiction film is that you're working with people who are not professional actors, and you kind of have a story that actually happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, like like the type of films that I have 2 YouTube channels, and I don't post very regularly on them. And one of them was just kind of like a 6-month thing where we had a slot in a TV program, and it was about motorcycles, right? So I'm into motorcycles, and it was a slot on a TV program. And what it was is we had a 2-minute slot every week for like, I think it was like 19 episodes or something like that. So they're all uploaded on YouTube. It's called Custom Talk. It's on YouTube, and it's about motorcycling. And we did that just so that I could explore different methods. I use these YouTube channels as a way of exploring making content.
Yeah.
So that one I used like DSLR, mirrorless cameras, and gimbals, and particular lighting and shallow depth of field, and I was trying to make it all real artsy and beautiful and all the rest. And it was kind of, my production values on Custom Talk were quite high, and I was trying to make it really kind of I just wanted to try and put a lot of effort into making the production values quite high. Whereas with EV Motorcycle, which is the other one, which is electric vehicles, but it's also about motorcycles. That was originally started out to kind of document people who were making their own e-bikes. So, people who were making electric vehicles back in the UK. And this started in 2006, thereabouts. It actually come out of a project that I did for my master's degree. It was me procrastinating motorcycles and video, because I like motorcycles and I like media, so I like to mix the two of them, right? So making film, video,
best of both worlds.
Make them. So what the spirit behind that was that I would create document people making builds, because I'm really interested in makers and people who make stuff, like the creative process beyond the computer, like the physical, like 3D printing and all this kind of stuff, right? I love this.
Yeah.
So I was trying to kind of bring that to light, or to the front. But out of that, when I come to Australia, there was a bunch of guys that I hooked up with, which were part of an electric vehicle association, where they started to build racing motorcycles. And then I made a 4-part TV series about that. And that was probably the hardest work that I've ever done. That was the most strenuous, most difficult. It went on for about a year. It went on for longer than a year, but it went on for like the main production went on for, say, a year to make 4 episodes. And in the end, I had a falling out I don't fall out with anybody, but he fell out with
no.
me, with the
Rude.
presenter, and it was broadcast once, and then I had to pull it, and it lives in my hard disk and never to be seen again.
Oh no.
So yeah, be careful who you get into projects with.
Yeah.
You gotta keep an ear out.
At
This
some
is
point, what I'll
completely-
do is I'll dub out him and I'll put somebody else in.
Yeah.
But not yet.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is completely off topic, but I'm jealous that both of you guys have swiveling chairs. I'm
All
stuck on
right.
I'm stuck on just a normal chair. I'm very jealous.
Well, you can run
there's
around
another
a bit.
swirly chair in here.
Yeah.
I just duck in and grab it, and I'm all right. But yeah, that's really inspirational is not the word. Hang on, my brain just froze for a moment there. That's really awesome. Like all the projects that you've done, and I assume that even though it was hard and that project in particular, and you had that falling at the end, do you still you still feel like it's worth it because it's like you're learning things and you're
100%.
doing stuff. Yeah.
100%. You don't learn by reading a book, or you don't learn by watching YouTube. You learn by making mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Every time that SD card comes up blank, every time that shot is overexposed, every time the audio doesn't work, they're all the things
Every
that
time
teach you.
you film an entire episode and realize you hadn't been recording the entire time.
That's it. That
Yeah.
is what teaches you. That's the real teacher, you know. It's not the person who's standing in front of the classroom. It's the problem that you face when it doesn't
The
work.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how you kind of work your way through it, regardless if it's good or bad.
Everything.
Sweet.
I've done every imaginable problem that you can have on video. I think I've accomplished it and learned from it.
But I guess
Really
you can be the living proof that, things do get better. They kind of maybe start from the ground and kind of build their way up. And
Yeah, look, personally, I've chosen education as being my main career, because this is what provides me with stability. Because the one thing I recognized from filmmaking, and before that, I was a graphic designer. I had my own business in Ireland. Had a design studio for about 5 years, and used to do websites and 3D stuff and video and a whole combination of stuff, and layout and design. And it's very stressful and very hard to run your own business. And it's a going concern. The reason why they call a business a going concern is because you're always worried about it, And education for me has given me, one of the things it's given me stability. And it's really important, I think.
Yeah.
But also you can't get complacent. It's given me stability, but what do you do with that? Do you just sit there and do nothing, or do you continue do you use that stable platform and then you create and you experiment and you keep creating? That's the path I've chosen. I keep creating stuff, So it's not like you just get the stability. So I think if you can find a stable platform somewhere in what you do, where you live and who you're with or whatever, and then that affords you the place where you can go out into the woods and do something. And
It's like,
you know what I mean?
It's like instead of trying to do something on moving sand, it's like you're actually standing on pavement. It's like, all right, cool. Now I have the space to properly do things that I want to do.
Yeah, you could fail, and sometimes it doesn't matter. It's not as big.
Yeah, be able to fall back on it and being like, all right, this is fine, and now I can get back up and do other things. Yeah,
because it is a failure. There is always failure in it. Every creative project that you do, there's always a failure. There's always something that you do wrong. And usually it's tomorrow you'll do it better. But today was you just have to recognize that it's not going to work today. You just got to stop. And then go back at it tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, sorry. What would you say your favorite thing about teaching is, if there is anything?
It's interesting because you get a lot of energy. There's a lot of creative energy that people have. And I kind of see it as what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make you see your creative energy, and I'm trying to get you to put it in the right place. Do you know? And by doing that, and if I can get you, the person who's in the classroom, to channel that energy towards creating that video or writing that assignment or whatever it is, then that inspires me, because you'd be surprised what I learn from the students in the classroom. I learn all the time. They'll tell me something's like, "What? Are you serious?" And then I'd figure it out. If I wasn't learning, I wouldn't do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I learn as much as the students every time. It's not just rote. I'll do this. I'll put something else into the class and I'll see how that goes. And then, we'll do another assignment or a different type of thing. And then I'll learn from the experience and they'll learn from it. It has to be a two-way thing. It has to be interesting for me and for them. If I'm not interested, if I'm bored of the class, the student's bored.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't get bored. I try not to get bored.
I think you can also tell when a lecturer is not kind of passionate or interested in what they're teaching, because you can see it on their face, you can see it on their body language, and that kind of reflects on how well the class is as well. I think.
Yeah. Well, I think that any subject, here's me getting myself into trouble here. I think any subject can be interesting. Really lecturing is about storytelling. It's really about finding the relevancy in the thing that you're all there to learn and basically exploring that as a group. It's not about dictating, telling people, "Oh, this is how you do this thing," or, it's all about finding the value in it, finding the meaning in what it is that we're trying to learn. Because everybody, even though they're all making a video, say motion design, they'll be making a video to fulfill a particular need. And I want that need not to be just to pass the subject. For me, that's kind of the lowest common denominator. Do the video to pass the subject. That's the lowest common denominator. But if you could do the video or do the creative process, but then you achieve something from that. So you'll either learn a new skill or you'll experiment, or you'll create an opportunity for yourself by partnering with somebody that you did work with that will open up doors in the future for you. That's the kind of thing I'm interested in. I'm really interested in people who are, "Oh, wow, I made this video for my friend in the coffee shop and now they want me to make 2 more videos and they're going to pay me for it." That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, it's like the networking. And
100%.
Yeah.
Because it is who you know. It's who you know and what you know.
Yeah, definitely.
And being ready. You got to be ready.
Yeah.
Do you know?
That's amazing. That's really awesome.
Well, that's how it should be. That's how I see it.
That's kind of how I understand it as well, even though you've articulated it in a much better way than I could ever. Well, at this point in time in my life.
Today I have, but maybe tomorrow I won't.
But even going through high school and just because that's very recent for me because I'm a very young person. It's just there's a lot of different teachers and lecturers who do the dictating thing and being like, "All right, this is what you need to do, now do it." And then there is, and there's a humongous difference in the energy in the room when the lecturer is how you're saying, how being we're both here to learn, we're both understanding things and we're working together and we're
Well, look, another way to look at it is there's a relationship going on, right? So there's 3 pillars. There's the content, there's the student, and there's the lecturer. And the relationship between those pillars needs to be sound, otherwise the building falls down. So if the students don't have a good relationship with the content, but they have a good relationship with the lecturer, then they can get by. If the student has a good relationship with the lecturer, but they don't have a good relationship with the content, they'll likely get by. But if the student doesn't have a good relationship with the lecturer and doesn't have a good relationship with the content, they're not going to get by.
Suffer. Yeah.
And that can be just as that, I always remember, it comes back to my high school days. And I remember the teachers that were really good. And one of there was a maths teacher. And if I could go back in time, I would have basically thrown him out because the guys in my class would all like football. So we'd get into the lesson and I think his name was McDonald. So Mr. McDonald would start the lesson and he liked football as well. And as soon as you mentioned football, soccer, right? As soon as you mentioned soccer to me, I'm like, I'm turning off. When I was 18 or 16 or whatever, I was turning off. I'm interested in computer games, not interested in soccer.
Yeah.
And so what would happen is that the conversation in the class, the students would be kind of dominating, they'd push it in towards soccer. So all I remember from maths class in that time was soccer. And that was really, really poor because I had a bad relationship with I was struggling at that time with the content.
Yeah.
The teacher wasn't recognizing that. And, you know, he's talking about football, and that really did me a disservice, you know?
Yeah.
But then I think about my English teacher, and I was just like, because I smashed all my English exams because I like to write, you know? And my English teacher was just the best ever, you know, just really, really interesting person. Same with college, you know. So you just think about who were the good teachers in your life, who were the ones that made a difference, and try and get a bit of that. Try and do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the point, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah. It's funny how it's really amazing how all that memory is just like it stays for a while. Just
it's forever.
Yeah. And it's like there's a lot of, I feel like
it's very rare to have such a you know, a genuine connection with kind of a lecturer or a teacher. I remember one of my teachers in high school, I first had him in music. He was kind of like, he could burst out into song. He started playing the piano and like singing and stuff like that. And I was like, this is an amazing teacher. Like, I want to have him again, like in the future. And he ended up being my mentor in year 12. And he really made like the last few days of year 12 such a memorable experience, just about like how like enthusiastic he was to help the kids in that. And there'd be other teachers at school who were just, they did not want to be there. There was, I don't know why it's math teachers, but there was this math teacher. Her name was, am I going to name drop? Her name was Miss Ramsey. She was like Gordon Ramsay, but in a maths classroom. I don't know what her problem was, but she was, you know, you're trying to give the benefit of the doubt to people, but she was completely horrible. And I don't understand like what her problem was, and it made me hate maths, and I ended up doing maths in my senior years. And I kind of look back to those memories. I'm like, I don't know what her problem was, but I think when your lecturer loves what they do, and you kind of that energy kind of rubs off on you, and it just makes the whole experience a lot nicer.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like I remember being in uni because I studied. I did because I'm interested in journalism, right? So writing, but also reporting. So realistic writing, documentary style writing. And I studied my first kind of qualification in college was film and video. So it was just a diploma in television and video, right? And I then went on, and because I started a business, then I then I did a bachelor degree in business studies because I kind of I felt that I had the creative stuff, that I had enough motivation to do the creative stuff myself. So anything, and I was working with my business partner, Joe. He was an amazing artist, but very, very difficult to work with, but an amazing artist. And he put me right on so many things, like guiding me. Like I thought I was the best designer when I was like 21. And then by the time I was 22, I had not got an idea what I was doing because I was the worst ever. And I kind of reset myself. So I built myself up to be this awesome designer. Joe came along, boom, I was right back down here. And then I had two choices, either walk away crying or just keep building back up. So then every mistake that I would ever make, Joe would just point it out to me. And so that's why I felt that my creative process was kind of guided in that way, because Joe was a few years older than me. And what happened was I went and studied business. And I remember going to business school, and there was one subject called economics, right? So I never realized that I really like economics, right? Because it's a study of humans, really, and their relationship to money and behavior, right? There's a whole behavior thing. But there was this teacher, and I remember this is one other thing, because I was starting to lecture at that time. And I was watching this lecture, and she'd go, okay, so the marginal propensity to consume is this. And if you divide this by, and I'm sitting there going, hang on a second. I don't really understand what she's saying, but she's still going on and she won't stop. So I'll just ask her, right? So I said, right, can you explain to me about the propensity? What do you mean by propensity? Propensity, the marginal propensity. And she kept going on and on and on, right? And I was sitting there feeling like an idiot, because I was like, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand it. I cannot understand it. Because sometimes it takes me time to really kind of click in. If somebody's giving me a concept, it takes me a while to kind of understand what it is that they're saying. Once I get it, I'll get it and it'll stick forever. Right. And she kept saying this thing, marginal propensity, right? And I remember going through that, and there were other people in my class, and towards the end of the class, towards the end of the term, like there was students in the class, and one girl was actually crying at the end of the class. I was like, what's wrong? She's like, I don't understand I don't know what it is, right? I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing either. I wasn't crying, but we were kind of all getting to that point, right?
Yeah.
We were all, there was a gang of us in the class that were basically worried that we're going to fail because we didn't understand what she was talking about.
Yeah.
And it was true, because I hadn't got a clue. And eventually what we did, we kind of got together and we kind of figured out, okay, what is this? And we pulled it out of the can. And I think I got like a credit or, a low distinction or something. I passed it and it was fine. I wasn't crying about it or anything. But if the lecturer had explained to me, what is this term, this economics term, propensity, it just means tendency. We have a tendency to buy more. But I didn't understand it in that context. And she just kept saying it like as if it's like you're saying, you see it. And I'm like, no, I don't see it. You see it. No, I don't see it.
Yeah,
you do see it. And I was like, I don't see it. And then she said, propensity. I just kept saying this thing to me. And I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. And she didn't know any other way to explain it. And she didn't make it relevant to me. And we all, and it wasn't only me, it was the other students in the class. We almost all failed. And I was like, you can't do that, right? But that was that was a business college, so some lecturers do, And she was a brilliant lecturer. Like she was like brilliant. Like she had like a PhD, and she was amazingly intelligent.
It was just
successful. Just hadn't got a clue.
It was just the way that she understood it, and she didn't know how to. It happens sometimes. Even if I'm trying to explain something to somebody and I get stuck, I'm like, the thing,
Just
conversation.
Don't know.
Like certain conversations with my parents. Like my mom's like, give me that thing. That should be a cooking or like something was wrong. She's like, the thing. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
And that's
Andrew, is there anything what are you working on now, if you want to change the subject?
Well, I'm still doing, because I've got a stack of video on my hard drive that I'm working my way through, and they've been filmed for quite a long time ago. So I'm using Twitch to keep me honest. So every Sunday night I go on Twitch and I spend at least 2 hours. I do an edit session, because that's how I work these days. I do things in sessions. So I do an edit session every Sunday evening, and I work on my projects, and slowly I chip away at them and I get them done. And that's for my YouTube project. So the one I'm doing now is a Halloween thing. So I'm doing this thing for it's like a biker club in Sydney, and it was a Halloween video, but it was from 2017, right? So I'm just editing it now because I haven't got around to editing it, because these things just pile up. So Twitch is keeping me honest. So that's my main creative outlet right now, is having a schedule on Twitch and basically editing that. Even if nobody turns up, I just have to meet that every week.
Just press that button where you can't see who's viewing and just do stuff.
Just keep going, because that's one thing. If I like the old Latin saying, it's like action begets action. And it means that if you're if you're not doing a thing, how can you expect to do it? It's like it's like if you're it's like, you hear of authors, they get up in the morning, they just start writing, just write. Doesn't matter what gibberish, doesn't matter what you're writing on your word processor or whatever, just keep writing. And eventually what happens is you'll click onto the right track and you'll continue. Like I think Ernest Hemingway, he used to have a technique where what he'd do is he'd stop halfway through a sentence and just walk away. So he'd be writing and then he just halfway through a sentence, even though he knew the end of the sentence, just stop. Turn off his typewriter or whatever it was, would have been typewriter in that day, and just walk away. And then come back to it later. And then because he's only got half the sentence written, he has to, what was I thinking there? And that clicks him back onto that train of thought, and he keeps going, So, one thing, what you think, I think when you're younger, when I was younger anyway, like my time horizon was very short. What I mean is that I would expect to have a project done. I'll sit down and I'll do it, and I'll just get it done, and it'll be done in a day, or it'll be done in 2 days, and I'll just do it. But my time horizon has grown over the years as a creative. And what I've been able to do now is I'm able to spend longer on projects. So for example, the last video that I put up on YouTube was about a gentleman who went to Iceland on his motorcycle, and it was an interesting journey. And that one took me like 60 hours to edit, you know?
Oh, wow.
And I just did that 2 hours each time on Twitch, plus time that I'd spend outside of Twitch, and then just doing all the Photoshop work for the VFX stuff. And that like took 60 hours. Now, if you say to me tomorrow, I'm going to make a YouTube video and I want it to be well edited or whatever, I'd say a minimum of 35 hours is what it's going to take me to make that video. And I wouldn't think twice about giving you that time scale, and I'd just go and do it. But when I was 18 or 19, 35 hours, man, you know, why am I working for 35 hours? Yeah. But then you look at a documentary, you say, well, the average documentary takes 7 years to make. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So your time horizon has to grow as you get older and your projects get bigger and more complex.
Oh,
it's amazing.
That's really interesting.
What kind of, speaking of complex stuff, what would you think like your dream project would be, like something that you've been working towards, or maybe you have an idea of that you'd love to do in the future? Or
well, I have an idea. It's kind of like, it's interesting because I can't remember the film director that said it, but essentially it's like all film directors basically have one film. Even if they make multiple films, they just tell the same story over and over and over again. And with that kind of thought in mind, mine is about, I guess I'll steal some words from a guy that I interviewed once. It's about building our future. So I like the concept or the idea of building renewable transportation. So for example, a motorcycle powered by electricity, you know, and I know they exist in the world, and I owned one for a couple of years, and I did 50,000 kilometers on it and all this kind of stuff. But I like the idea of building something like that and documenting the build. And that's kind of what my next project and my last project and all the projects that I've done up to this point have been about, is that building process. So because it opens up so many questions. So how do you put the batteries here? What battery do you use? How do you mount the batteries here? How do you manage the batteries? How do you deal with, and they're all engineering problems that require solutions. But one of those problems could take you a month to solve or 2 months to solve. So this thing goes on for years and years, and you try and figure out all these things. So I think, like, if I suddenly found myself with lots of free time and lots of money because I don't have to work or whatever, then I'd probably find a couple of people. Well, I know a few really clever engineers, and document the process, that creative process of making a physical thing. You know, that's what interests me. I don't know why. I have no idea why.
It's really just cool.
It's just
whatever floats your boat, you know.
I often ask, why am I doing this? I don't know why. I just
if it fills you with fulfillment, and if it makes you happy, then at the end of the day, you're doing what's right for you.
Yeah, definitely.
I think so. It's good advice.
Look at you being all philosophical.
I just jabber on, and every now and then something golden will come out.
See?
I think before we get into the quick fire questions, I just wanted to ask, you know, how you stay motivated with projects that take you 60 hours to make and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I like, there's a really interesting short documentary by Vice TV on YouTube. You can go and watch it. It's called Phil Tippett, My Life with Monsters. Yeah. And he talks about a project that he's been working on for like 20 years, you know, and he's like, you start this thing, it gets so big that you can't stop. It's like the point of no return is now you've reached it. Yeah. So you have to just keep going, and you just got to make sure that whatever it was that you started, you enjoy doing, because you will be just doing it forever, you know. What keeps me motivated is, I guess, it's kind of understanding that the creative process, you know, if I'm creative, if I'm being creative, I'm healthy. So I'm mentally healthy and I'm physically healthy. All right. So if I find that I'm in that creative space and I'm able to work. I'm able to come up with ideas, or I'm constantly thinking about ways in which to solve XYZ creative problems. Then it means that I'm in a healthy space, and that's kind of a good indicator as to whether or not you're having a positive experience in life or a negative experience in life. Do you know what I mean? So I think that creativity is almost like a little litmus test to see if I'm feeling creative, then that must mean that everything's going okay. Do you know? And that's kind of, how would I say, like, because there's times in life when, you might be struggling health-wise or mental health or physical health or whatever, and you're unable to be creative, so if you're feeling creative, so what keeps me motivated is kind of understanding that it's like a muscle, and you have to keep exercising that muscle. So you've got to keep that momentum going. It's the whole idea of, it's what is it? Action begets action, as I mentioned earlier. It's just this, you just got to keep that action going. And it's very easy not to want to do it. I don't want to do Twitch tonight. I just want to, play a computer game or something like that. But once you do it, 20 minutes in, you made the right decision. And then an hour or two in, you go, oh, wow, I've got another 30 seconds of my video edited. Next.
Yeah. I feel like as long as you're moving, you're making progression.
You're moving forward. You just like you're turning the ratchet. I like what Seth Godin says. Seth Godin is a really interesting marketer. He says, you just got to turn the ratchet. So the ratchet's like click, 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 click. So if you're always turning the ratchet, whatever step that you're making, if you're clicking it and you're turning that ratchet, it just means that you're moving in the right direction. You're clicking it one way at a time. So every time, so that's why education allows you to turn that ratchet. That's why, doing creative projects yourself, coming up with ideas allows you to turn that ratchet, and obviously you need time to reflect. You need, family time or whatever to get away from the process. And also you need to recognize that the subconscious mind needs to play computer games. The subconscious mind needs to do other stuff, right? You can't just be creative all the time. So you
need some leisure time.
Yeah, you do. And you need to not be doing creative stuff all the time, but you just recognize that if you're not feeling creative today, that's okay. But you're doing something that you're storing up. You just got to recognize that you're storing up all those memories in your head. So as soon as it's like having this, it's like it's growing in the back of your mind. And then as soon as you go down to do that edit session or that, whatever it is, that will manifest itself in some way. Yeah. So even the computer game or whatever, because everybody procrastinates a bit. We all do.
Yeah.
But
all the time.
I'm the master of procrastination.
But it's there for a reason as well. Like there has to be a level of urgency to something sometimes to make it happen. That's why I do Twitch, because there's a level of urgency to it. Oh, I'm on Twitch tonight. Oh yeah, I have to do that.
Yeah.
I have no choice. Yeah. Once you press stream, you got no
you're
choice.
Live now.
You can't just stop, right? So you have to go. So that's what keeps me honest. And for some people, like for students, it's the lecturer and the deadline. That's what keeps you going, that's that there,
Yeah.
So I don't know what keeps me motivated. I just, you just got to recognize that if you're creating, then there's something going right. And usually if things are going right, you just keep creating.
Yeah. I think
hopefully that happens
forever.
I think
for everybody, part of the motivation is finally seeing an end product as well.
Yeah.
Being like, especially when you've put a lot of hours into it and you can see it you see it yourself, be like, oh, I remember doing that one part, I remember doing this.
Yeah.
And it's just seeing the final product of things.
Yeah.
So
the
humongous
motivator all that
for
hard
me.
work. Yeah.
Well, it's peaks and troughs as well. Like there's times of anxiety, and then there's times of elation, and there's times of anxiety and times of elation, and it goes peaks and troughs. And part of that process, I think, what I've kind of learned to get better at is to let the project go. So once it's created, I put it up on YouTube, and I don't really worry too much, or try not to worry too much how many hits it gets or how many comments it gets or whatever. I just say, it's in the world now, go do your thing next. Yeah. Because if one interesting way to look at it is, I remember hearing a person talking about music, and one of the things that it was a lecturer, and she talks about to her students, and she says the most important lesson that you can learn in this term is that a song is not a precious thing. So essentially, even though you've written a song, great, you've written a song, Now let's write the next song. Now let's write the next song. Let's not, because you can't
Keep going.
You can't just hang on that one thing. You have to just write it, go, write it, go, write it, go. Or make the video go, make the video go, make the video go. And that's why we, in my classes, what we do is we just constantly make videos. Like week 1, make a video, week 2, make a video, week 3, make a video, week 4, make a video. Just keep making those videos, because eventually something along the line will click and you'll just continue to make the videos, and then your project will be done.
Because I think as creatives as well, you feel like you can make your product better all the time. I feel like I've spent so many hours like working on I like drawing, particular drawing, and I'm like, oh, I can make this part better, I can make this part better, I can make this part better. But then I only have one drawing, and I wouldn't like all my ideas went into that one drawing, and it's hard because you have so many ideas.
The masterpiece,
all your time.
one drawing.
Yeah, but then it's like I need more to my name. I need to create more because I have the potential to. Just you can spend hours just driving for perfection, which perfection doesn't exist, and it's kind of
you just got to keep moving. From project to project
to kind
keep.
So would you
detach sometimes?
Would you say that this drawing, I'm going to practice this technique? This drawing, I'm going to practice this technique. Do you ever go like that? You say the purpose of this drawing is for me to practice shading. The purpose of this drawing is for me to practice perspective. The purpose of this and regardless of everything else, because that's how I approach video. I say the purpose of this video is to allow me to do, say, for example, my own music. The purpose of this video is to allow me to use the iPad as Photoshop on the iPad to do all my deep etch. The purpose of, and that's each video has a job. If it's not going to pay me, because it's not going to pay me, it's got a job, and its job is you're going to teach me how to do this. You're going to do this. You know?
Yeah. So and every now and then it can also just be, I just want to do it for fun. Just do something funny.
Sure.
Like, of course, if that's what keeps me motivated is doing serious, and then do something funny and then do something serious. But yeah, like I do that a lot with my process and learning, being like, okay, I'm drawing this thing now. I'm learning to animate, and I'm going to use this exact thing to learn how to animate this one thing of a ball bouncing. Ball bouncing is so hard to animate. But anyway, but then as you go, you go for different goals every time, and then slowly you build up.
And it never ends. It's never ends. Your job now is to teach me this. Your job now. And I talk to, sometimes I'll think of my projects like a person. I'll say, your job is to teach me how to do this, and I'll make the project. But the deal is, I'll put in the hours, but I have to learn something from that project. You know?
I think there's a thing during October that's been going on for a while called Inktober, and every day there's a different thing that you need to draw to kind of participate in that month. And I think that's a really good way to kind of, you have, say, day ones, incorporate nature into your drawing, and you can't focus so much on doing that because tomorrow it's something about chairs, and the next day something about ovens, for example. And I think that's a really good way to kind of get your mind out of focusing all your energy on one thing and kind of dabbling in different things, just so you can focus on different techniques and not just worry about that one specific thing.
And Inktember specifically is for like using like paper and ink kind of thing. So it's just like, you have these tools, that's it, now go create. And then the next day comes like, all right, scrap that last one, time to start anew. I mean, well, not scrap it, but it's like it's doing something finished, and now
you have something different to do.
It's exactly the same, and you do that for even the larger projects. I think every project that I've ever done, I've kind of given it that responsibility. When I look back at the work that I've done, I say, your responsibility is this. If I ever found myself just doing the same thing again, then I kind of like, I don't see the point in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Sweet. Well, I think we get into our quick fire questions now.
Now I'm nervous.
Ash, do you mind setting up a timer for me, please?
Yes, I will, with my handy dandy phone that we were just complaining about.
I normally do the timer in my class. Now I'm on the receiving end of it.
How long
the tables have turned.
Okay. No comment.
2 minutes. Got no comment.
2 minutes per question. Or 2 minutes for the whole thing?
2 minutes for the whole thing. So it's basically quick questions.
Geez, that's a lot of time.
Do you want to?
Not a lot of time.
Do you want to alternate between the questions? So I do 1, you do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever.
Just say them. Actually, fine. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. There's 8 questions.
Start, I'll go.
Okay, I'll start. What's your favorite movie, Andy? If there is one.
Oh,
That might be hard for you.
well, I'm watching The
Filming you.
Expanse. The Expanse right now. The Expanse on Amazon Prime is a series. It's a science fiction series. It's the best science fiction series I've ever seen, and this is my 4th time watching it. So there's like 5
really
seasons.
cool.
So I'd probably
sweet.
say The Expanse, and it's bigger than a film. But if you want a movie, you have to choose most influential movie. I like my guilty pleasure is Hackers. You know, with Angelina Jolie. That film was just it's garbage, but it's kind of good.
Yes.
Yeah. Or Matrix is probably up there, right? The original.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
What would be your biggest pet peeve in cinema stuff?
Oh, what do I not like? Am I allowed to say this? Superheroes. I don't like superheroes.
No, yeah, I understand.
Anybody
that.
who wears their
In a
underpants
way.
on the outside is just
Yeah,
gone. No.
yeah. What's
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
What's your favorite video game?
Oh, it's a game from. There's a few of them, but Wipeout on the original PlayStation 1. It's called Wipeout XL or Wipeout 2097.
Nice.
And it's by a company called Signosis. And I could just play. There's 1 or 2 tracks in that I could just play for days. Or Tetris as well. Tetris is also.
Oh yeah, Tetris.
Yeah.
Do you have
Many.
any weird or useless talents that you kind of just have that you don't really use on a day-to-day?
Party tricks.
Party
I
tricks.
can
Yeah, that's
whistle.
a good way of
I
saying
can
it.
whistle through my hands. You know. There you go.
Oh sweet, my dad can do that.
Why? I don't know. Random, right? Maybe I was calling my dog when I was like 5 or something. I learned that. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, next question. Do you have any pets?
Yeah, two boxer dogs.
Oh,
Nice.
thank you.
Awesome.
Oh, the timer just went off. We'll just keep
Oh.
going. It's fine.
Yeah, we have 3 more questions.
What is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Oh.
A big boy question.
Piece of advice. There's a few, right? You're not as good as you think. Maybe as from Joe, the designer. That's not a good design. Do better.
Yeah, always work
Maybe.
towards doing something better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also good to not have yes men around you. I think I appreciate when someone's blatantly obvious or blatantly like, oh, that design looks shit, and I'm like, okay, perfect. Instead of trying to go,
It's like you're trying.
I think this is cute. I think this is cute, but I'm
you're
like,
trying-
no, be honest with me. Even if it hurts me, I want you to be honest.
When Joe would walk into the studio and he'd look at my screen and he'd just go, I knew I was onto something.
Nice.
That's it. That was it, right? As soon as he goes, that would be it. I knew I was doing good.
It's awesome.
Amazing. What is your biggest fear?
As much as you're willing to share of it.
Yeah.
Probably, well, there's a couple, but I guess if anything happened to me in terms of like I left a lot of unfinished business behind. So, for example, if I don't mean like halfway through a term and somebody has to pick up my class, you know what I mean? But something like that, like if I, I don't know, if I got into trouble on my motorbike, say, for example, but you can't think of that.
Yeah. Very deep answer.
I have this recurring dream though. This sometimes it's like I have this phone and I'm trying to call a number and I just can't dial the number. So maybe that's my fear, afraid of dialing numbers.
Yes.
If anyone, maybe someone can psychoanalyze you. Anyone interested in dream readings, feel free to analyze Andy's dreams.
Somebody tell me what that means because I have no idea.
Oh geez. I just have weird dreams, man.
Same.
I have dreams and then in the middle of the day something will happen and I'll be like, wait, I dreamed this. I have deja vu moments all the time. I'm just like
glitch in the matrix, right?
Yeah, I'm just like, hang on a second. I know exactly what you're about to say, and I know my response to that. What if I change it? It's just
it's just the synchronization of your two sides of your brain, you know that. It's just your left brain and your right brain.
Yeah. But it's just it makes me it gives me like I find it funny all the time when it happens.
And last question.
Is that me?
Is it me? I think it's
I've
you.
lost all attention. If you could live in another place, where would you live? Where would your dream place to live in? Physics and real world aside, just anywhere.
I'm pretty happy where I am.
Nice.
If I had a choice to be able to live half of my life, half of my time in Dublin and half my time in Sydney, I'd choose that.
Nice.
Oh, amazing. Sweet.
That's very good. There's nothing better than hometown.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much. This has been awesome.
Yeah.
So
cool.
That has concluded our interview. Ow, I just hit my elbow on the table. We can cut that out. But yeah,
fix
that
it in
was
post.
Andy.
That's my greatest fear. Fix it in post, because usually I'm the one who has to fix it.
Yeah. We have to just
but
clipping things out and making sure it still moves properly. Yeah.
This has been our interview with Andy Marsh. Thank you for coming on and giving us your wisdom about whatever it is. Stuff.
Well, look, thank you for doing this podcast, because I think it's really important that we do this, and I think it's brilliant that you guys have taken the initiative, and it's I hope that you can continue to make more and more of these podcasts, and that you get lots of interesting responses.
I hope so.
It's a really great initiative.
Very
maybe
very
we can
excited.
Maybe we can hopefully bump into you in real life and
one day.
exchange a conversation.
IRL, is that what they say?
IRL, yes.
Yeah. Is that what the kids say these days?
Or on Twitch, Sunday night, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Twitch, VFX Editor.
Just plug yourself in real quick. Give us your channel name.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah. All of Andy's links will be in the description, and anything that he's mentioned for you to check out will be in the description as well.
Cool.
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to follow us on our socials at SRC Ultimo on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes.
And if you enjoy the content that we're making, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's at SRC Ultimo on everything, including...
Links will be in the description.
Yes.
Actually, I think you'll already be here. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It will be there anyway.
We are on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio, and Podbean as well.
We can't wait to see you guys next time, and we'll see you around. Have a good day. See you around.
It'll be here, or wherever it'll be.
Over here, over there, up there. We don't know. It'll be there.
Maybe it'll come out of my mouth. Who knows?
Bye.